We got out and got the engines warmed up, and there was about 20 knots of wind, 15 to 20, I'll say. And we pointed her into the wind, and Lee said, "Let's go." So we pushed the throttles forward, and we didn't really notice too much at first, excepting that it started to move, in my opinion, a little bit better than it did before. With that, 11 seconds later, well, Lee started calling off airspeeds. I think he said 9, 11, 28, and 37. And when he said 37, in about that rapid succession, I replied, "We're airborne." And the airplane, without getting on the step at all, went from displacement at the same pitch attitude as right up into flight. Well, I didn't have time to trim it. I didn't have time to do anything except hold forward pressure with about all my strength to keep it level. You can't just chop the throttles and land again. And but we settled it back down on the water and then brought it back in. And I'll let Lee go from here to.
Actually, the initial acceleration from idle thrust as he brought the throttles up, you could tell that we had more than we had last year. Last year we were just killing fish and plowing water, and that was it. and immediately you could notice the acceleration going, as I say, I was counting 9, 13, 16, 23. And by the time I had called off about 35, he said, "We're airborne." At which point I closed my eyes, headed for, no, we were so surprised and pleased that the thing was in the air, we barely had time to really understand what was going on. But I noticed that Jim was using a lot of forward pressure. He said, "I might need some help." And I thought, well...
He started to pray at that point.
Yeah, I whipped out my stainless steel rosary.
Now the next day, we got a little bit more opportunity to feel the airplane out, and I noticed that first of all, the ailerons were very stiff. That was a big concern of mine. It's a long wing, and each aileron is 17 feet long.
Enormous.
And it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so it takes an awful lot of pressure to move them. The first attempts were optimistic, and then as we got up to speed at cruise, and we were probably cruising at too high an airspeed, which indicated about 75. They were so stiff that I could get very, very little reaction out of them. Later we found out that as we slowed down that they worked better, and when we fixed the jam pulley, it worked even better yet. So I was very nervous about making the first turn. We also adjusted the pitch trim, which worked phenomenally well. As soon as we got the airplane trimmed, it was just a different airplane. It flew like a big, heavy, stable airplane that it really was. It flies very, very nicely. We went up, and Lee got 3 landings, and then I got another landing. And each time, it's sort of a learning curve. You try a little bit more each way. And Lee made the very first landing when neither one of us knew when we were on the ground, water. And
well, even a blind pig catches an acorn every once in a while. The thing that surprised me was once the airplane came off the water, the acceleration rate from that flying speed of about 40 miles an hour to 65 was very quick. And as I say, the controls were pretty heavy and I think at one time we indicated almost 80.
Yeah.
You know, which may have been installation error and made a lot of things, but it was pretty close to 80 miles an hour. This is the first airplane I have ever really been able to feel the ground effect. As you get close to the ground, you can literally, it's hard to explain, but you can literally feel this cushioning effect of the airplane as it gets close to water, and it really wants to land like a baby carriage. It's a wonderful airplane to land. It doesn't have any mean tendencies. It doesn't have a tendency to porpoise. You just set it up at a ref speed and just fly the thing out of the water. It works beautifully.
We didn't get a chance to test the rudders, but I did with my foot a little bit, and at cruising speed, with all my strength, or as much as I dared put on the rudder, I could move the ball out of the center just barely perceptibly. Differential thrust worked well, and that's how we achieved that. Also, surprisingly to me, unlike the A1, which requires, when you take your foot off the gas pedal in the A1, it assumes all the aerodynamic qualities of a baby grand piano and pretty much comes down. But this one, with all its wing, despite the wires, we pulled the power back and it just seemed to glide and glide and glide. It was very, very nice. It requires very little power at cruise. Sort of sits on the big wing and just rides along. And we hope to get some more testing involved in it. And we didn't get a chance to test the rudder trim either. But it's a delight to fly and to land. And as we get to know it better, it's even better.
I'm not sure that it won't have reasonable characteristics flying on a single engine either. I think there's enough there that once it's in the air, I think, depending upon how the rudder works, I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I really do.
Put in a little electronic box that basically measures all the parameters of the engine. The 2 RPMs, every single exhaust gas temperature gauge, every cylinder, so you can see if one's not firing. It's not to measure the temperature of it so much as just to make sure when a plug's misfired or a problem like that you could never hear or see. But then also the water temperatures and the oil pressures were all there, and they're recorded. So after the flight, you can stick a memory chip in the box, take it, put it in a computer, and you can see a reading every 6 seconds from the moment the box is turned on.
And it was
very useful.
Really a nice thing, because I happened to be looking at it when we got the water leak on the right engine, and immediately I could see an increase in water temperature. Yeah. And the temperatures were hanging around 137, 140. And all at once I saw the right temperature going up to 150, 175. It went to 199 just like that. Whereupon I kind of looked back and said, geez, we're bleeding a little water out here.
So we shut down that engine right away and taxied in. Fortunately, it was on the water. And